Most people learn who their father is before they can even speak. But for Rymir Satterthwaite, the truth came in fragments, and it came late. His mother, Wanda, dropped hints throughout his childhood that the man raising him wasn't his biological father. And eventually, she named a name, Sean Carter, better known as Jay-Z. At first, it sounded unbelievable, but as Rymir grew older and started connecting the dots, it stopped sounding crazy.
Do you believe wholeheartedly that Jay's your father?
I really do. And if it's not, why you can't prove me wrong? Like,
Jay-Z had lived in the area. The timeline matched, and Wanda didn't say it for clout. She said it as a mother trying to give her son clarity. Rymir didn't grow up chasing fame or trying to ride coattails. He wasn't after headlines, he was after identity. And when Wanda passed, that need for the truth became a personal mission. For over a decade, he's been knocking on legal doors, asking for one thing, a DNA test. Not money, not fame, just facts. Sometimes your whole life can hinge on one unanswered question. Rymir's story isn't some celebrity kid scandal wrapped in luxury. It's the opposite. Raised in Philadelphia under modest means, he never lived a day with Jay-Z. Instead, he was cared for by his mother, Wanda, and later by his godmother and legal guardian, Lily Coley. He grew up hearing whispers about his parentage, but when Wanda told him outright that Jay-Z was his biological father, it changed everything. Still, Rymir wasn't looking for a payout. He said it over and over again. I never asked for money.
I never asked for money. I don't do interviews just saying, hey, Jay-Z, give me your money, or I'm coming at the Jay-Z for his money.
I just want the truth. While critics painted him as a clout chaser, he stayed focused on a single goal, confirmation. Through all the media noise, he's maintained the same message. If Jay-Z is not his father, just prove it with a DNA test. But instead of getting answers, he faced silence, legal blockades, dodged court dates, and high-powered attorneys making it harder to get the truth. When silence becomes strategy, people start asking what's being hidden. The legal trail begins in 2015. With Wanda gone, Rymir and Lily took action, filing a paternity suit requesting a court-ordered DNA test from Jay-Z. On paper, it should have been simple, but what followed was anything but. According to Rymir's legal team, Jay-Z's lawyers moved quickly to get the case thrown out. They claimed another man had already been declared Rymir's father. But when reporters pulled Rymir's birth certificate, no father listed, no ruling ever filed, nothing was legally settled. And yet, the case was dismissed anyway. Lily, a paralegal herself, called it sabotage. She alleged that Jay-Z's team used influence, misinformation, and legal loopholes to avoid the test. For Rymir, it was another dead end in a search for identity that had already dragged on for years. One test, one answer. That's all he asked for. Instead, he faced a system that seemed designed to protect the powerful. When a billion-dollar name is involved, even the truth can get expensive. Most people would have given up after one legal defeat, especially when you're going up against someone with billionaire power and elite attorneys. But not Rymir. After the 2015 dismissal, he doubled down. With his guardian Lily by his side, he kept filing, state after state, court after court, judge after judge, and for nearly a decade, the response was the same: delay, deny, dismiss. But Rymir refused to stop. He said this wasn't just about his own DNA. It was about exposing how powerful people can manipulate the legal system. And over time, the cracks in the case began to show. Reporters noticed strange filings, documents that didn't add up, and a growing trail of allegations that Jay-Z's team was doing more than just defending. They were allegedly using pressure tactics behind the scenes. 10 years, multiple legal setbacks, but still no test. Why? That's what started making people suspicious. Because when the truth keeps getting buried, you have to ask who's holding the shovel. Then came the break no one saw coming. In 2023, after nearly a decade of closed doors, a judge gave Rymir's case the green light to move forward. This time, it wasn't dismissed. This time, Jay-Z was being forced to respond. The news hit headlines instantly. After years of legal stonewalling, it seemed like Rymir would finally get his day in court. But the question remained, would Jay-Z actually take the test now that it was legally unavoidable? Or would he and his team find another way to stall? This wasn't just a procedural win. It signaled a shift in momentum. The court acknowledged that the case deserved another look, and that meant revisiting not only Rymir's claims, but also the shady legal maneuvers that had kept the case quiet for so long. For the first time, Jay-Z couldn't hide behind silence. You can only dodge the truth for so long before it catches up. But there's one detail that could explain everything, and it's the darkest part of the whole story. According to multiple reports, Rymir's mother Wanda was just 15 or 16 years old when she got pregnant. And if that timeline is true, then this story stops being about celebrity reputation and becomes something far more serious. Jay-Z would have been around 22 at the time, legally an adult. Wanda? Not so much. That changes the stakes entirely. It's no longer just a matter of biological fatherhood. It potentially crosses into criminal territory. If Rymir's claims are accurate, then taking a DNA test could open Jay-Z up to a level of scrutiny he's never faced before. Allegations involving minors are career-ending, legacy-crushing, and reputation-destroying, no matter how long ago they happened. And that, many people believe, is the real reason behind the delays. Not money, not image, but fear of legal exposure. Because sometimes what the DNA reveals isn't just paternity, it's guilt. Then came the break no one saw coming. In 2023, after nearly a decade of closed doors, a judge gave Rymir's case the green light to move forward. This time, it wasn't dismissed. This time, Jay-Z was being forced to respond. The news hit headlines instantly. After years of legal stonewalling, it seemed like Rymir would finally get his day in court. But the question remained, would Jay-Z actually take the test now that it was legally unavoidable? Or would he and his team find another way to stall? This wasn't just a procedural win. It signaled a shift in momentum. The court acknowledged that the case deserved another look, and that meant revisiting not only Rymir's claims, but also the shady legal maneuvers that had kept the case quiet for so long. For the first time, Jay-Z couldn't hide behind silence. You can only dodge the truth for so long before it catches up. This wouldn't be the first time Jay-Z's name came up in connection to underage allegations. And that's what's making this case even more disturbing for some fans. Over the years, there have been persistent whispers about Jay's relationships before fame. Back in the early 2000s, rumors swirled about his alleged involvement with Foxy Brown when she was just a teenager. Nothing was ever confirmed, and both parties denied the claims. But the rumors stuck. Then, in 2023, Jay-Z's name was suddenly linked to a disturbing lawsuit involving Diddy, where a Jane Doe accused both men of sexually abusing her when she was just 13. Jay-Z quickly denied any involvement, saying he stood for protecting children. But for Rymir and those following his case, that statement didn't sit right. How can you claim to protect kids while dodging a paternity test tied to a girl who may have been underage at the time? Because silence on one case makes every other accusation echo louder. According to court records and interviews, Wanda told her son that she met Jay-Z in 1992, when she was a teenager living in the Brooklyn projects. She said they hooked up at his aunt's apartment, and even mentioned they used protection. But according to Wanda, that protection failed. After that night, she never saw Jay again. When she became pregnant, she didn't have the means or the access to track him down. She moved on, raised Rymir as a single mother, and eventually passed away after battling health issues. By 2010, custody of Rymir was given to Lily Coley, who believed it was time to act. In 2015, they filed their first paternity suit, but Jay-Z's team claimed the court had no jurisdiction over him, allegedly arguing that he didn't own any property in New Jersey. That later turned out to be untrue, but back then, it worked. The case was dismissed, and the man Rymir believed to be his father walked away untested. Truth delayed is still truth denied. Lily, a trained paralegal, says she witnessed something worse than just courtroom technicalities. She claims Jay-Z's legal team actively tampered with the process. One of the most serious accusations? That Wanda, while recovering from a medically induced coma, was pressured into signing legal documents that removed Lily's name from the case. According to Lily, this happened without consent, while Wanda was vulnerable and medicated. She believes it was a calculated move to weaken their position in court and strip Rymir of proper legal representation. The result? The petition was altered, the filing was compromised, and once again, the case was dismissed before any DNA test could happen. But Lily and Rymir didn't back down. They began documenting everything. And that's when the story took an even darker turn. Because the moment they started pushing back, they say the intimidation began. When legal power fails, some people allegedly reach for fear. By 2018, the pressure had only intensified. After nearly a decade of legal battles, dismissed filings, and sealed records, Rymir filed another suit, this time accusing Jay-Z of using his wealth and power to avoid a DNA test for more than 8 years. But what really caught the public's attention wasn't just the accusation, it was the paperwork. According to The Sun, Rymir's birth certificate listed no father at all. This directly contradicted claims from Jay-Z's team that someone else had already been identified as the legal father. The missing name wasn't just a clerical issue. It raised real doubts about whether the dismissal had been based on false information. Even worse, rumors began swirling that members of Rymir's own legal team were working with Jay-Z's attorneys behind the scenes, undermining their own client. It was starting to look like the case was never just about the law. It was about influence. When truth disappears from the record, someone usually benefits. Then came the moment that made everyone take a step back. According to Lily and Rymir, shortly after filing new charges and speaking out publicly, Rymir's car was shot at. Not just vandalized, shot. He was in a parking lot near his home in September when the bullets flew. Out of all the cars parked there, his was the only one hit. They didn't call it a coincidence. They called it a warning, a message, and it wasn't the first one. Lily said people began showing up at her home at odd hours. Cars pulling up at 4 a.m., knocking on doors, driving over her lawn. Always around the same time legal motions were filed. She believed someone was watching. Someone wanted them quiet. And it wasn't just about silencing a case. It felt personal. The violence wasn't random. It was calculated, and it raised one terrifying possibility. Was someone willing to risk jail just to keep the truth buried? Lily didn't just play the role of guardian. She became the firewall between Rymir and whatever forces were trying to shut him down. She says that after each legal filing, the threats ramped up. People trespassing on her property, cars circling the block late at night, mysterious strangers knocking on her door at dawn. But she didn't back down. Instead, she went public, not just with media interviews, but with a larger mission. Lily began pushing for legal reform through what she called the Pro-Se Abuse Act, a proposal to protect people who represent themselves in court from being crushed by wealthy defendants. For Lily, this was never just about Jay-Z. It was about exposing how money manipulates the law. She argued that most people don't get fair hearings. They get bought-out rulings. And in Rymir's case, she believed it nearly cost him his life. If justice is for everyone, why does it cost so much to access it? When courts protect power instead of truth, reform becomes survival. There's a little-known law in New Jersey that might explain why this case won't go away, and why Jay-Z may already be legally on the hook. According to New Jersey state law, if a man refuses to take a court-ordered paternity test, he can be presumed to be the biological father by default. That's not speculation. That's statute. And for Rymir, that means Jay-Z's years of avoidance could legally work against him. No DNA? No problem. The court can still rule based on refusal alone. Lily and Rymir have pointed to this exact law in their filings, saying Jay-Z's continued resistance isn't just suspicious. It's a self-inflicted legal liability. If the court applies that statute, it doesn't matter what Jay-Z says. The law will say he's the father unless proven otherwise. In other words, by running from the test, he may have walked into a trap. Sometimes silence isn't protection. It's permission for the law to decide for you. Tired of fighting the same battle in a system he felt was rigged, Rymir filed a new lawsuit, not just against Jay-Z, but against the New Jersey court system itself. He accused multiple judges and officials of conspiring to protect Jay-Z and illegally tossing out his earlier cases. In the filing, Rymir's lawyer dropped a bombshell. Jay-Z allegedly lied under oath by claiming he didn't own any property in New Jersey, a technicality that helped get the first case thrown out. But now, they say they've got tax documents and property deeds proving otherwise. If true, that means Jay-Z may have committed perjury to dodge a DNA test. This lawsuit is no longer just about paternity. It's about corruption, manipulation, and obstruction. Rymir's legal team says powerful hands have been pulling strings behind the scenes for over a decade, and this time, they're demanding accountability. Not just from Jay-Z, but from the entire system that enabled him. When the system protects power, the people start fighting the system.